Okay, so what's been happening in the AAF this year since we last met? There's been lots and lots of stuff happening. We've put on a lot more staff and we're doing a lot more fun stuff with our federation, taking it to the next level. So let's have a look at that. So we've got a rapid identity provider. This is a hosted identity provider in the cloud, and it provides our organizations with a cloud solution for joining the federation. And we're now recommending that all federation identity providers use this cloud solution. It just gives us so much more ability to ensure that everyone's running the latest software and they have all the patches up to date, so they have all the configuration correct for connecting to Edugain, and to do it in a way that's going to improve the probability that a user will connect to a service in Edugain successfully. We currently provide 3 modes for this thing. Ldap Mode, which we're trying to phase out, but this mode's still in use by some of the smaller organizations. It allows Cloud IDP to connect directly to the university's Ldap directory and do the authentication against the Ldap directory and pull the attributes from the Ldap directory. We need specific firewall rules to be put in place to enable this option, which some universities don't like. We chose not to go down the VPN path to get to the university's Ldap directory because we have another option which is much better. This option doesn't really allow for extending into multi-factor authentications that are provided by commercial IDPs such as Azure and Okta. Our second model is the virtual mode. This is for really small organizations where we also host the users' credentials and users' information. The IDP that the AAF uses is actually a virtual mode IDP, and that's because we don't have an Ldap directory. We just use this directory, a database of users. We also use this as our virtual home for the IDP of last resort for users who aren't part of an institution that's part of our federation but still want to participate in the federation. Our newest mode and most popular mode is the proxy mode, and it allows our IDP, our cloud IDP, to integrate with the university or organization's enterprise identity solution. This can be Okta, Azure, F5, Google, anything that provides a SAML IDP we can plug into, and that allows us then to offload the authentication piece to the cloud or to the enterprise identity solution where multi-factor can occur, where other advanced identity options can be implemented at the university, and they're sort of segregated from us but used by us to push that information out to the services. Next. So its key features: it's designed for high availability. It allows for automatic certificate generation and renewal, which is a feature provided by Amazon Web Services, which we utilize. It allows us to deploy systems review. It actually does a deployment review before a system configuration change occurs to avoid the system being broken at any time. It auto scales based on demand. So initially there'll be 2 servers. It's more needed because of demand. It will grow out to 3, 4, however many, and then back off as demand falls away. It's a load balances across multiple availability zones. So if the AWS zone in Sydney goes down, there's another copy of the service running in some other city. So there's that super high level of availability. It's very secure. We have dedicated VMs for each customer. It leverages a lot of the AWS capabilities. And we continue bringing on more of those security capabilities as they're made available to us. And we have regular third-party penetration tests against this software, so they find any issues and we try and fix them as quickly as possible. We try for zero downtime migrations and rollbacks, blue-green deployment. So we have new instances rolled out. They will replace instances sitting behind the load balancer. So from the user's perspective, there's zero downtime for access to the federation. And we have a very attractive user interface. It's compliant with a whole bunch of standards for user interfaces and accessibility. So it makes it easy to use. With the proxy mode, though, users hardly ever get to see the user interface because all of the user interactions are going to be with Azure or Okta at the back end, or F5, or whatever they are running. We have over half of our customers have signed up and have moved to the Rapid IDP. There's 3 still remaining on Ldap mode. We're trying to move those off to migrate them to proxy mode. We have 4 virtual modes, so 4 small organizations, and the rest are running in the proxy mode and taking advantage of the capabilities that provides. One of our other very popular services is Verified Global. This is a verification service that we provide to our customers to give a yes, no type answer to, is this person a student at a university or is this person a staff member at a university? It's running on top of proven technology, so it runs on top of our federation. It uses standards, OIDC, I think, is a standard. And we have had 4.75 million verifications in the last 12 months. For each of those verifications, we charge a microcharge on those federation verifications. So this is a big money-making activity for the AAF. And we are trying to expand this service to other federations. We've been talking to Malaysia. We've already hooked it up to the UK Federation. And it's been very successful for them to make information about students available to customers who are interested in that type of activity. This is really good for things like Spotify or discount services, cheap clothing, cheap food and so forth, or anything that where a student identity, proving that you're a student is entitles you to a discount. We've had a lot of work in our community engagement. This is something Farhan brought up earlier about how difficult it is to work with the community and keep the community engaged and understanding what the Federation is all about. My team runs a IDP health check program. We have a discussion with all the IDP administrators, whether they're in a rapid IDP solution or running a hosted, an on-premise IDP. And that's an opportunity for us to discuss with the technical folk about what we're doing and to get a better understanding of what the universities and research institutions are doing around their identity. We've also had a big effort in our national trust and identity capabilities, NCRIS, which is the funded government program for providing resources to research activities, and we're actually trying to become part of the NCRIS funded organisations who help us continue to support those activities. And this is a really highly focused research initiative that the government has been running for many years, and we've been supporting it strongly through the Federation and providing the single sign-on capabilities that a Federation should be providing. We also participate in our Australian Higher Education Cybersecurity Group. It's an organisation that is very focused on security, and we participate in that. We listen, we understand, and we work with the universities to improve the cybersecurity awareness and capabilities across the sector. Cybersecurity, this is probably the case in your country, it's very strongly funded, and a lot of activity happening in cybersecurity to ensure the safety of people's digital identities. We're the ORCID Consortium lead, so we operate the consortium, we collect the funds, we work with our customers to get the integrations into ORCID happening, and we do a lot of community engagement about what ORCID is and the benefits of it. One of my staff members, Melroy, is doing a fantastic job in getting the message out about ORCIDs, and we're starting to see real benefits in how ORCID joins the dots between what a researcher does, how they publish it, the funding they get, is all getting tied together nicely with the ORCID identity. We've started another process, our Chat in the Lounge, which is a half-hour video session that we have with various groups from our team, talking about various aspects of our work, what we do, to the different customer bases that we deal with. Our next one is going to be a technical-based one, where we've got some of our technical leads talking about the infrastructure that we're building and how people can easily connect to it, and the benefits of doing identity federation from a technical level. And we've also moved away from the yearly survey to a more focus group based activity to get feedback from our customers. We found people have basically worn out, or they're run down doing surveys, but they're more interested in actually talking to their colleagues and us about what's good, what's bad, and what's indifferent about being part of the federation. So we've got a whole team that looks at community engagement and how to keep that message out there, keep people aware of the great services that we provide as a federation. We also engage internationally. We've got a member who's on, our CEO is actually a member of the ReFed steering committee. I participate in the schema board. I'm also the Edugain steering committee chair at the moment. I hope to give that job up at the end of the year, and I think there's going to be a change in the way that's being organised. We also participate in the Edugain security working group, another aspect of security, just on a global focus rather than a national focus. I do this stuff in the APAN Identity and Access Management Task Force, and we also participate in the ORCID Membership and Fees Committee and the ORCID APAN Consortium Interest Group. So we have our fingers in lots of pies, both nationally and internationally. Again, it's all about keeping that message going forward. We're making some technology improvements. We've replaced our monitoring solution, which was homegrown previously, to an outsourced monitoring solution, a thing called Uptime Robot. It just does a check every so often of all the systems, all the IDPs and services in our federation, and sends us warnings if they're finding any issues with access to or availability of those services. We've got our new world order infrastructure, so we're looking at containerization and cloud-native approaches to building stuff rather than building complete applications on servers. So that's occurring as we speak. All of our old infrastructure is being refreshed and moved to the cloud. We're rebuilding our core tooling. We're getting rid of our federation management tooling and replacing, so federation registry tool, and replacing it with Federation Manager, which will encompass all of the services that we currently provide and add user interfaces to those services. This includes Rapid Connect and our central service, which is an OIDC proxy. We've got a validator service, which is also moving. It's actually part of that moved last week. And we're also building a integration between our Salesforce tool and Federation Manager. And we use Salesforce to record all of our customer information. We've got various rapid IDP features and improvements that are always happening. So it's never a standing still piece of work. So always changing, always improving. New features are being added all the time. And we're also migrating the Ldap based IDPs to proxy mode where we can. On technology, we're building a reporting and business intelligence tool, which will be based on the logs collected from each of the IDPs, which is another benefit of having control of all the IDPs, is that we can actually get access, easy access to their logs and pump them into our reporting and business intelligence tool without having to get them sent from campus to us via the network. It's just all internal. So from that, we should be able to get some end-to-end service usage data information, which is much more accurate than what we've previously been collecting through our discovery service. And we'll be providing different dashboards for different audiences. So our board will have a very high-level dashboard, whereas our technical folk will want a very specific low-level, what's happening on the ground type dashboard to see what their IDPs are doing. We have had a look at Setosa, which is a proxy. We've actually moved away from that. We're just going to continue on with our existing proxy for OIDC because there's some capabilities in that we required that weren't available in Setosa. We may come back to have another look at Setosa in the future, but our current efforts are to extend the capabilities of our existing OIDC proxy. And we're also looking to add a SAML proxy capability to deal with SaaS-based SAML services that can only connect to a single IDP. There's many of those out there as well. ORCID. We've got our ORCID member portal was released, and we've got affiliation members that we're signing up to use that. We haven't got many yet, but there's a few in the pipeline. And we've got the members reporting dashboard, which is a very popular thing for institutions to find out how well their research population has jumped onto ORCID and how well they're using it. We're working with a couple of other institutions on a PIDS cost-benefit analysis for Australia. We see a lot of benefit in providing more PIDS, or personal identifiers of all sorts to help glue stuff together, to help identify different things and to maintain that identity over time. And we've seen a great growth in the grant applications with linked ORCIDs over the past few years. So now up to 92.2% of applications that have now got ORCIDs embedded within them. And a quote from Dr. Joe's chapter, an ORCID usage story. The integration of ORCID saves them 3 to 4 days per grant application. The difference in workload is staggering. So they're using ORCIDs to reduce their efforts in actually developing grant applications. They just add an ORCID, and that provides all the background information that's required for a grant application. So what is critical is that my ARC record is getting updated, which is a momentous saving on work for me and helps with keeping my CV up to date. So they put in an application, they get some funding, and Australian Research Council will automatically update this person's ORCID record, so he doesn't have to do it himself, and it's always current with the work that he's doing. So he's making a great benefit out of using ORCID. We have a number of projects underway. We're working with the Australian Biocommons, the Human Genomic Platform Project, so it's a cancer research data sharing thing. And with that sort of data, there's a requirement for high levels of assurance to be allowed to actually access that data. So we're working with the crowd called CI Login to provide a platform that allows the biocommons people to share their data in a safe and secure way. We're also working with the cadre, the Coordinated Access of Data Research and Environments project. Again, this is about high levels of identity assurance, high levels of credentialing assurance to provide access to data in a transparent way. Let's see, on projects about language data commons, sharing of written languages, samples for research, and looking at sharing indigenous languages. And there's a lot of restrictions on who can access this data. And again, the Language Commons group are being provided a platform where they can define who gets access to what sort of data at what times to meet the requirements of the Indigenous folk. As you can see, these platforms are being provided for various communities. We've got the language community here, the biocommons community. We also got another one for the astronomers, radio astronomy folk, as part of the square kilometre array. There's a number of these platforms that we're building. So we're building a platform that we can replicate over and over again. We're also looking at how our federation fits within the new digital identity trust digital identity framework that's coming out of the Australian government. And we're working with the Australian government to ensure that we still have a place when this trusted framework comes about. Timeline stuff. So we've got in 2016 we started developed a roadmap. In 2019 we developed a strategy. We released a strategy in 2020 to all and sundry. We ran a number of expert working groups and participated in working groups, and now we are developing our national infrastructure roadmap, which is actually the technology to build these platforms. And our team will be building these platforms out next year and into the future for each of these different communities. So this is where we're really expanding on the capabilities of our federation, providing this high level assurance and also ability to provide grouping, federated groups and federated membership type arrangements. And we're got some funding. We've actually been approved some funding this year to actually take this project further. We've got at least 2 to 3 years worth of funding to move this this whole strategy forward. So it's been a long time. It's from 2016. That's 6 years already. We've been sort of working towards this point of actually getting funding to be able to take the big next step for our federation. The good things. New skilled staff who have improved the culture of the AF. So we're now up to a staff footprint of around 20 people. It's a fairly big sized organisation to run a federation with all the new technologies that we're building and new frameworks we're putting in place. We're going to need every one of those to be working at to get it going. We're now running multiple locations. So we've got people in Perth, we've got people in Melbourne and in Canberra. So we've got a wider coverage of time zones, and we've got the ability to actually go and visit our members in those states much easier than having to fly out of Brisbane every time we want to go and visit somebody. We also now have the opportunity to travel again and meet face to face, so there'll be much more of that happening at conferences and so forth. And we'll be meeting face to face in September with some of you fine folk as part of the IFIRE X-Man project. And we also have e-research, our Australian e-research conference in Brisbane, so that'll be face to face, and there'll be other face to face things. So it's great. Progress towards acceptance. So actually, we now have acceptance of that TNI project as critical infrastructure. and we're doing work that makes a difference. So we're actually starting to see these benefits in our federation. We're starting to get we have been for a while, seeing the real benefits that running a federation does. And there's a happy photo of a koala to finish it off. Hey, go koala. Stop sharing. So that's what's happening in the AF. Lots of fun stuff, keeping us all very busy. And this week, this thing is just part of the various activities that we get involved in. I see that Depthy's now joined us from Sri Lanka. Afternoon, Depthy.
Is it afternoon for you? It's morning for me. Good morning.
It's 1:30 in the afternoon here. Sorry I missed you earlier, but we've been having just federation updates from various federations, just a verbal update of what you've been doing. So would you like to just quickly share with us what's been happening in Sri Lanka?
Okay, give me a second.
And if anyone else is wanting to do a quick presentation, if you just put your name in the chat, and we'll get to you before we jump into our presentation from Estelle from ORCID. Yeah.
You can see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Here the updates actually not. We can't say that updates. They are like downfalls of our sites. Kinda. I mean, first, when you're talking about eduroam, we are maintaining that institutional eduroam, institutional level eduroam service, and still we have support team like count is one, like only me, and we are maintaining all institutional level edurooms, and actually our IDP customers are the eduroom, like the people who are using eduroom in Sri Lanka. And what happened to public eduroom? I told you that, like in last update, there was a problem, like the maintaining them. Cause of that COVID situation in Sri Lanka, it was kind of like the people who was responsible to maintain that, they hadn't maintained, like they couldn't maintain that properly. And also because of this current situation, like as you know, in Sri Lanka there is some things going on here. So because of that, and the cost and blah blah blah, they have actually management have decided to like stop public eduroaming, and that's a downfall of learn. Actually, we could do that. We could maintain the public eduroam if we had like if we hadn't this inflation situation and those things in Sri Lanka. And future plans. Actually, we are encouraging institutions to maintain and expand the coverage in their institutes. And also we want to fight back to get back eduroam project, public eduroam project. And that's for our eduroam side.
Mhm.
And when we are going to learn Ldap side, then still supporting staff is me, and our actually manager. He's not engaging with this, but when I need the help, he's engaging with Ldap. And we are getting more IDP customers. Like even yesterday I activated some another IDP.
Cool.
And actually we recruited another tech engineer, but he is not still engaging with this Ldap things. So we have to like he is engaging with like more other side stuff, and let's see how that's going to learn. And this is not much update thing. And we are currently maintaining the policy documents like identity federation policy, data protection policy, and metadata registration practice statement, and technology profile. And the same attributes we are maintaining in our Ldap, and also in eduGAN, like all the federation, like IDPs opts out of eduGAN. If they want to join with eduGAN, like join, they have to talk with us, and then they can join. And also they must meet a baseline level, and all federation, like all federation SPs, like we have done some workshops to the institutes, how to register SP in our federation, as Brooke and Terry was there. And the Ldap protocols, we are maintaining a SML version 2. And the tools and services, actually the same things like before: website and federation register tool, signed metadata, support desk, knowledge base, and federation discovery services, and federation status. And the blockers, federation blockers. Actually, because of that lack of resources, like human resources, I mean, since there's me to do most of the stuff in Ldap, so we have no much time to test more things on Ldap. But let's see how that's go in the future. And of the lack of understanding of our potential customers, like if we can do some research on research on what we can provide to the customers, that will be help. And technical knowledge, because sometimes when we are like in institutes, there are technical persons, but sometimes that's not enough. Like they have no much technical things on many things. Actually, I understood that when I work with some institutes, sometimes it's kind of difficult. And lack of more killer apps. It means we are using Zoom for Zoom, and sometimes actually EduVPN is not much engaged thing in here. but we are using Zoom, and we need more killer apps, killer apps to engage with Ldap. And other federation related services like EduVP and EduID are using, we are using here, like EduID is kind of trending thing here in Sri Lanka, and future plans. And we need to improve our securities, and now we have updated our IDP version 3 to 4 in our test bed. And first we are going to update our learn IDP, because we have to apply that to our Ldap, like before we apply to institutes. So after we are applying that IDP v4 for our learn IDP, then within 2 or 3 months, like within 2 months, we will apply to all other IDPs in Sri Lanka. And we are encouraging universities on introducing some like SPs, like more SPs, because there are people who can introduce services for the institute. So we are encouraging them. And thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Dipsy.
Okay.
Good update. Okay, any questions for Dipsy?
Yes, Deputy. I have a few questions. So, sorry, I missed some part from your presentation. When you say a lack of resources, what kind of resources that currently you are lacking?
Lack of resources means like more technical persons there.
Oh, technical person. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then, but the university has no hesitation to join if there's somebody that can help them to operate an IDP for them.
Sorry?
Now, would the university who interested to join your federation,
Yeah.
if let's say there's somebody that can help to manage the IDP for them, would it be like helping?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, please.
There are people who are managing it, and like before they start to we are asking them to have a technical person for them, like to administrate that.
Okay, so yeah, because yeah, if let's say because it's also the same situation in Malaysia where the university has some challenges to operate the similar IDP. So that's why we are offering IDP as a service, whereby they only manage their directory services, and for the management of the IDP is done by us. So that could help you to let's say to remove the first obstacle in regards to the resources. And then when you say about the killer apps, I remember that you offer Zoom, right, to the education institution in Malaysia. Are you still offering that service?
You are talking about that registration service, no, right?
I think like previous APAN, you provide Zoom to the education and research institution in Sri Lanka. Are you still offering that Zoom service for the video conferencing?
We are offering that, but we have to check whether they are offering for your that the thing you mentioned there.
Yeah, I think because I remember that you offer. But anyway, so I think that about the killer apps is it's good to have more killer apps, but having more actually not really. Yeah, it could be an help. But anyway, so because we we put the slightly different position when we promoting identity federation. So we carry the tag like sort of like extending the scope of your IDMS and so on. So means that it doesn't, for them, it's just an additional extra service and so on. But will you offer this federation service as a paid service or free service to your member?
Free service.
Okay. So free service is not really big matter actually. So yeah, I think by offering IDP as a service, or like even the very least is as a proxy mode, that will help you to boost identity federation in your country. But since you are part of the iFire X-Men, so we will share how to set up IDP as a service at the upcoming hands-on training at Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We will help you, no
Okay.
worries.
Okay. And anything you want to ask?
Any other questions for Depsy? Okay, thanks for that, Depsy. Might move on now. Is there
Okay.
anyone else who wants to do an update of their federation activities before we jump onto ORCID? Okay, I'll take that as a no. So we've got Estelle in the room. Oh, Estelle, there you are. Okay, over to you, Estelle.
Yeah.
Talk to us about infrastructure to improve trust, identity, and recognition.
Yeah, thank you, Terry. And let me just start to share screen. I want to say thank you for this chance to speak here. It's not common for me to engage with, so many delegates from really in the region. So I'm very appreciative. Yeah, so let me start sharing my screen. Second. Can you see my screen now?
It's giving
Is it okay? Only I need to turn off my camera.
it says it's starting to share screen, but it doesn't.
It's keep loading here. So let me try to save this. I couldn't sharing. Let me try again. I just can someone just probably. Oh, okay. Is it okay now? Oh no.
Nope. You want to email me the things I can share and you can talk to them?
No, I don't. Yeah, I think someone just start my access to share.
Oh, here we go.
Okay, I think I'm in now. Did you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think I need to turn off my camera. Great. Okay. Perfect. Let me just start it. It's okay now, Terry?
Yep. There you go.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so hello again, everyone. I'm very glad to have this chance through Terry, and just really want to use this chance to share a bit more about ORCID. And I'm Estelle Jam, based in Taiwan, and I am now the ORCID engagement manager for our global direct members community, and especially for publishers or service providers like you. So today I want to briefly share a few things. So I want to begin with the current development of supporting research. And of course, I think a large portion of the federated identity community is actually supporting research or supporting higher education. And next, I'm going to introduce ORCID a bit for those people that may be relatively new to ORCID. And I'm happy to share more use cases, in particular about improving trust, identity, and recognition. And also want to use this chance to highlight the fact that both ORCID and identity federations share really common goals. And as shared by Terry, that AF is a very strong partner with ORCID, and we look forward to more with the other identity federations in this region. And last, I'm happy to take your feedback and to discuss with you. And I will share the slides to Terry, so don't worry about the slides. And I want to give a heads up that, as you know, I'm not a developer myself. So today my presentation won't be very technical. So rather I try to focus more on illustrating the overall picture of ORCID and some of the future potentials. But if you do have specific technical or more product related questions, please feel free to share. If I'm unable to answer you immediately, I will relay back to our team and give you more details. Let's begin from supporting research in action. So I think supporting researchers, organizations, and ensuring sharing research outputs are key parts in the field of research or higher education. The different stakeholders in the research ecosystem work on together to provide resources and services for the research communities, for people to conduct research and foster innovation. So as just shared, actually a great examples from various delegates in the last 2 hours, or roughly 2 hours, I would say. It's really about how to improve the services for your customers or clients, namely higher education universities. And however, I think there are some major challenges staying in place. So I classified to 3. So the first is about these ambiguous researchers understand who is who and which one is the one. The second is about trust identity, whether it's likely researchers are who they say they are and what they have achieved. And the third is about to recognition. So about acknowledging both researchers and their outputs accurately, and connecting them with the right organizations or contributors. Those are the 3 major challenges. And to do that, we need infrastructure, which is mandatory to build connections among researchers, organizations, and the research outputs. So from here, I'm going to introduce or reintroduce ORCID a bit. So some ORCID facts. So ORCID is an independent, non-for-profit or non-for-profit organizations registered in the US, and we are open to participation to all different types of stakeholders. It's launched in 2012, and we are sustained by fees from our member organizations. So when you hear about ORCID membership, it's actually for organizations. So researchers can really sign up for an ORCID ID without any membership or any private requisitions. And ORCID is guided by our values and funding principles. We are community governed by a board of directors elected by our member organizations. And ORCID stands for Open Research and Contributor Identifier. We provide 3 main services. The first is the ORCID ID. It's a persistent identifier, what we call PIDs. It's free of charge to researchers or for people who contribute to research. And ORCID provides a set of APIs and services and support of community practices to enable interoperability between an ORCID record and different organizations. And researchers can share their ORCID IDs with organizations, and they can change information based on that in their research workflow. And ORCID is a place to share those different connections between IDs, between researchers and their affiliations and their research outputs. And here I want to echo the previous slides that infrastructure is needed to connect researchers, institutions, and outputs. And ORCID is the PIDs for researchers. And we work with different other persistent PIDs as well, like PIDs for organizations. Probably you heard of ROAR, and PIDs for research outputs, namely DOIs, now is widely used, and PIDs for funding of grants, like the Crossref. I think that was called FundRef or Crossref Funder Registry. Anyway, so we work with different PIDs too. And also want to share that or highlight the part that ORCID is community driven. So we do work with different multiple stakeholders instead of just research institutes or just publishers. ORCID works with a variety of different types of organizations, and of course including services and vendors, or what we call service providers. And this is our member community on the right-hand side. So we have members. I'm more responsible for direct members, and we have consortium members like the AAF, or the AAF is the consortium lead in for our consortium members in Australia. And from here, I want to share more detail about really use cases to improve trust, identity, and recognition. I believe the three parts are also very important for the identity federation. So it is evident that the ability to disambiguate researchers is very critical for a trustworthy scholarly record. And so I want to share, this is the common challenge, I think, especially in the APAC region, about our name translations, abbreviations. When you publish or when you have research activity, you used to use that instead of your own language characters. So this is a common kind of representation of the name ambiguity here we encounter. And ORCID is actually a name-independent person identifier, and we are founded actually specially to help solve the name ambiguity problem in research. And our mission is to enable trustworthy, transparent connections between the researchers themselves and with their contributions, their affiliations. Our intent was try to provide a mechanism for researchers so they can connect with their organizations they trust to update their ORCID records in their workflows. And we don't want to, and we cannot be the mechanism for researchers to be validated as researchers simply by having ORCID ID. I think it's rather important is that we provide the mechanism, but we are unable and we cannot be the mechanism. And next is that I want to share, speaking of trust, part of our success actually comes from our distributed incremental trust model. So ORCID engenders trust by balancing research control and data quality. So we have the distributed model, and that allows reliable and different trustworthy data sources to validate information on ORCID record with the record holder's permission. So an example is that you may, if you are a researcher yourself, so you may publish journal articles, etc., and that will get a DOI number. And during the process, probably Crossref or DataCite, these two DOI registration agency will ask for your permissions so they can help you update your ORCID records. And so this is the following example to share that ORCID member organizations can increase the trustworthiness by adding information from your system to researchers' records, of course, with their permissions. So as you see here, this is the example of New York University. So they are adding the employment information for their researchers to their ORCID records. And this is an example of education and qualifications. And the provenance of the data source are short here. So you can see the source name is New York Universities. And we call this validation, this validated assertions. trust markers. So this is now the importance notion. We are advocating about trust markers. Those are validated assertions. And different organizations can further use these trust markers to do different stuff based on their own research workflow. So those trust markers include affiliations added by research institutes or work, articles or book chapters added by publishers or repositories, and funding or funding awards added by founders. And there could be links to different persistent identifier. Those are counted as trust markers, and as here just highlight again, the provenance of each assertion is indicated in the research record, researcher's ORCID record, and also in the API code as well. And we have a dedicated blog post to introduce this. And ORCID was built from the ground to really to earn the possible trust of the community we serve. So ORCID's value is open, inclusive, and trusted. And there are two components, both legally and socially. As I shared, covered already a lot of points that we are based in US and legally there, and our membership is open to all. And we have legal agreements, and we have very, very strict and detailed privacy policy in terms of those different kind of regulations when you do like API stuff. And socially, in terms of trust, this is of course one of our funding principles, and we are committed to researcher control, and we do have open source data and open source software, and we are trying to, and this is not perfect, but we are trying to provide a more equitable, sustainable business model. And of course, the key piece of ORCID and of our role is to continue our community engagement and conversation with you all. And from this slide, I want to the recognition part. So when it comes to recognition, the research community can increase the number of researchers being recognized of their research activity by asserting affiliations, which we just went through about really use these different trust markers. And we now encourage not only about employment or education, actually different kinds of recognitions or contributions can be added to ORCID, different professional services, distinctions, or peer review activities as shown here in these screenshots. And as I shared, this is in particular, I want to use this chance to advocate that actually there are a lot of common goals between ORCID and identifications. Although from the updates just now, I can tell that probably ORCID and the identity federations or federated identity. Anyway, so these two communities may still have their own specific tasks to complete, but I think we do share common goals in terms of we both are eager and our mission is to support research and education. And we want to improve trust, identity, and recognition in the research field. And now I think the very quick start point is that we can directly take advantage of our current existing practices. So ORCID is available to act as a single sign-on option, not sign-in, single sign-on SSO option. And also ORCID supports that for different universities, they can sign in into ORCID with institutional credentials, provided if those institutions are a part of EDGE members, which I believe that will be realized through the Identity Federation services. And we do, not only me, we do believe that by deepening our partnership it's possible that we will increase the value we provide to researchers by helping them save time and hopefully reduce more administrative burden and achieve greater recognition. And we want to reduce researcher frustration by really easy their sign-in hassles. So sign just, it's just one set of password or username to start from this. And it's actually not about just a password and username. It's more really about trusted identity in that sense. And we can extend the value by providing more to members, to organizations that are both members of ORCID and your organizations too. And we can help lift the overall trustworthiness of ORCID so everyone can contribute. So for everyone by contributing trusted assertions. And I believe both ORCID and the identity federations provide interoperability across the systems, as I share in the on the right-hand side as this diagram. And yes, I think I'm going to wrap up my presentation. And I really want to use this chance to share something new. So I'm not sure if everyone knows, but recently ORCID launched a global participation program. So this is a program we call GPP, and it's an initiative. So we try to bridge the gap and to provide more equity and easier access to regions or to communities that are now more underrepresented in the ORCID member community. And we acknowledge the fact that the previous ORCID membership fees could be a barrier. So that's why we want to use this program to provide a remedy to that. So the global participation program consists of two parts. The first is Global Participation Fund. It's not officially, we haven't opened to receive applications, but we will be doing that soon. So the fund contains two different parts. That we have grants for community development and outreach, and we do have grants for technical integrations, especially for those open sources services. And I believe those will be a good chance for the community who may want to do more using our fund. And the other is that we have the membership equity program. We do provide a very substantial fee discounts for organizations in lower or lower middle income countries that are classified based on the World Bank classification. If they want to join ORCID if we want to start ORCID Consortium. So this is the GPP program. And yeah, so if you are really interested in doing more, please feel free to contact me directly, or you can use our support emails too about start engagement. Or if you are already using ORCID, you're welcome to contact us to let us know how we can deepen your current integrations. And please feel free to always welcome our sites. And yeah, I'm happy to take your feedback, and also please feel free to follow me on Twitter, although I'm just quite new, but I will try to share much news as much as I could. Yes. So yeah, I will stop here and stop sharing. Thank you all.
Thanks, Estelle. Is there any questions for Estelle? So I have one for you. How many consortiums do you know of that are in the Asia Pacific region?
Oh, that's a good question. So now let me just turn on my screen and then stop sharing. So how can I do that? Just give me a second about stop sharing.
Oh, it should be at the top of your screen.
Yes, it's paused now, but I want to stop sharing. Anyway, don't worry, just let me do it. Yeah, so now in APAC region, we have 4 consortiums. So one in Australia, one in New Zealand. the third in Japan, and the fourth in Taiwan. So we have 4 consortiums here in the APAC region. And globally, I think we have 26 now.
Cool. And is there any one you're particularly targeting in the for a new consortium to start?
Oh, yes, definitely. So very good. So Terry, thank you for bringing that. So for consortium members, actually ORCID Consortium is open to nonprofit organizations in essence, but the consortium lead organizations, that part, I think we are open to both nonprofit or for-profit. But in essence, the ORCID Consortia only apply to nonprofit organizations in general.
Okay. Any other questions? Comments?
What was that list again? I got the New Zealand and Australia, but I missed the next two.
Yeah, so we have 4. So Australia, New Zealand, and Taiwan, and Japan. So there are 4 ORCID consortium in the APAC region.
So Taiwan is obviously interesting for the lack of an identity federation in Taiwan.
Are you referring to the consortium itself, or?
No, I'm saying that if you're saying there's a consortia and I'm saying there's not an identity federation. And so there's a disconnect in the way that is working from traditional deployments, right?
Yeah, I think in Taiwan we have like national NRENs, I'm pretty sure, but I'm not sure about the identity part. I can double check, but yeah, I think so. Yes, and anything else? And yeah, I'm also from this chance, I'm very glad to see the Japanese identity federations. Forgive me, I forgot the name, but yeah. So I think it's just really good examples of, there are great potentials to bridge these different communities together.
Okay. Well, that's, unless anyone has last calls for Federation updates, we'll call it a day, but I'll do a quick what's happening tomorrow. So heard that, what's happening tomorrow? Tomorrow it's training day. Taking it right back to the beginning, right back to the basics in preparation for our event in Singapore for our face-to-face thing, which those who are invited will know who they are. But we're going to go right back to the start and just cover off on the basics again of how universities can save time, effort and money by participating in a federation, protecting the privacy and security of your end users, how sharing and collaboration is enhanced globally through federations, the types of services that can be provided, and how the national perspective can influence the federation purpose. That's the first session, and the second session is around the roles of the federation operator, providing a framework for interoperability, evaluating member organizations, aggregating metadata, about their service providers and identity providers, and providing a sustainable service, and the many other tasks that are around running a federation. So it's not very technical, it's more, what is a federation, how is it benefiting you, your users, your researchers, your services providers and everybody, and what the roles of the federation operator are. In Singapore, we'll be going more into the technical stuff, for those who are coming, and again in Nepal, hopefully a very face-to-face event where we'll have the opportunity to dive deeper into the technology side of things. So that's tomorrow at 11 o'clock here, which is 9 o'clock in some places. It's where the conference time zone is. And I'd like to thank everybody for sharing today. I thought today went really well. There's lots of really good information, good updates from everybody. And some of the presentations were really interesting, some information being provided. So thanks everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow if you're interested in learning about what the Federation stuff is all about. So do we have any questions before we call it a day, or any other comments? Brian?
No.
Oh, okay. So that's it.
Yep, see you.